Question 1. Consider a scenario where a Cisco collaboration team is evaluating the implementation of a new API-driven automation solution to streamline user provisioning and deprovisioning across multiple Cisco collaboration platforms. The team is eager to reduce manual effort and improve response times. Which of the following represents the most prudent and professionally responsible approach to ensure the successful and compliant integration of this automation? Option A. Proceed with the automation implementation immediately, prioritizing the perceived efficiency gains and vendor-provided documentation, and address any issues that arise post-deployment. Option B. Focus solely on the technical aspects of the API integration and the automation's ability to perform the provisioning tasks, assuming that security and compliance will be handled by other teams. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that analyzes the technical, security, operational, and compliance implications of the automation solution, involving relevant stakeholders from IT security, operations, and compliance departments. Option D. Implement the automation in a limited pilot environment without a formal assessment, and if successful, roll it out broadly without further evaluation. Correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that analyzes the technical, security, operational, and compliance implications of the automation solution, involving relevant stakeholders from IT security, operations, and compliance departments. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of integrating new automation solutions into existing Cisco collaboration environments. The challenge lies in ensuring that the automation, while improving efficiency and functionality, does not inadvertently introduce security vulnerabilities or negatively impact the user experience or compliance posture. A thorough impact assessment is crucial to identify potential risks and benefits before deployment, requiring a deep understanding of both the automation technology and the existing infrastructure. Need for careful judgment arises from balancing the desire for innovation with the imperative to maintain a stable, secure, and compliant operational environment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that systematically evaluates the proposed automation solution against various critical dimensions. This includes analyzing its technical feasibility, potential security implications, e.g., data privacy, access controls, operational effects, e.g., workflow changes, user training needs, and compliance adherence. By proactively identifying potential conflicts, risks, and benefits, organizations can make informed decisions, mitigate negative consequences, and maximize the value of the automation. This aligns with best professional practices by prioritizing a risk-based, holistic evaluation, ensuring that the automation solution is not only functional, but also secure, efficient, and compliant with relevant regulations and organizational policies. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing automation without a proper impact assessment poses significant regulatory and ethical risks. One incorrect approach is to proceed with deployment based solely on the perceived technical benefits or vendor claims, ignoring potential downstream effects. This failure to conduct due diligence can lead to regulatory noncompliance if the automation inadvertently violates data privacy laws or security standards. Ethically, it represents a failure to adequately protect organizational assets and user data. Another incorrect approach is to focus only on the immediate cost savings or efficiency gains, neglecting the broader operational and security implications. This narrow focus can result in unforeseen disruption, increased support costs, and security breaches, all of which are professionally unacceptable and can lead to reputational damage and financial penalties. A third incorrect approach is to delegate the assessment to a single team without cross-functional input, leading to blind spots and an incomplete understanding of the overall impact. This siloed approach can miss critical interdependencies and risks, violating the principle of comprehensive risk management. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, multidisciplinary approach to impact assessments for automation solutions. This involves 1. Defining the scope and objectives of the automation clearly. 2. Identifying all stakeholders and their concerns. 3. Conducting a thorough risk analysis, considering technical, security, operational, and compliance aspects. 4. Evaluating potential benefits and return on investment. 5. Developing mitigation strategies for identified risks. 6. Documenting the assessment findings and recommendations. 7. obtaining necessary approvals before proceeding with deployment. This systematic process ensures that decisions are data-driven, risks are managed proactively, and the organization benefits from automation in a responsible and sustainable manner. Question 2. The investigation demonstrates that an engineer automating Cisco collaboration solutions has identified a critical security flaw in a third-party component that is integral to the project's success and timeline. The flaw, if exploited, could compromise sensitive customer communication data. The engineer is aware that reporting this flaw will likely cause significant project delays and require substantial vendor intervention, potentially impacting their performance review. What is the most ethically and professionally responsible course of action for the engineer? Option A. Immediately document the vulnerability with detailed technical information and escalate it through the company's established security incident reporting channels, prioritizing customer data protection over immediate project completion. Option B. Inform the third-party vendor of the vulnerability directly and wait for their resolution before reporting it internally to streamline the remediation process. Option C. Proceed with the automation project as planned, assuming the vulnerability is minor and unlikely to be exploited, to avoid project delays and potential negative performance feedback. Option D. Attempt to patch the vulnerability independently using internal resources to expedite the resolution and avoid external dependencies without formal notification. The correct answer is A. Immediately document the vulnerability with detailed technical information and escalate it through the company's established security incident reporting channels, prioritizing customer data protection over immediate project completion. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a scenario where an engineer, responsible for automating Cisco collaboration solutions, discovers a potential security vulnerability in a third-party integration used within the automated workflows. This vulnerability, if exploited, could expose sensitive customer communication data. The engineer is under pressure to deliver the automation project on time, and reporting the vulnerability might cause significant delays and require costly remediation efforts from the vendor. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it pits the engineer's ethical obligation to protect customer data and system integrity against project timelines and potential business repercussions. The engineer must balance their duty to the employer and clients with their professional responsibility to uphold security standards. The pressure to meet deadlines can create a temptation to overlook or downplay the discovered vulnerability. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach is to immediately and thoroughly document the discovered vulnerability, including its potential impact and steps to reproduce it. This documentation should then be escalated through the appropriate channels within the organization, following established security incident reporting procedures. This represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the security and privacy of customer data, which is a fundamental ethical and often regulatory requirement in the IT and collaboration solutions industry. Cisco's own security guidelines and best practices for solution development would mandate such a proactive and transparent approach to security issues. This aligns with the principle of do no harm and demonstrates a commitment to responsible technology deployment. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to ignore the vulnerability, assuming it is minor or unlikely to be exploited, and proceed with the project to meet the deadline. This is a significant ethical failure, as it knowingly exposes customer data to risk. It violates the principle of due diligence and could lead to severe legal and reputational damage for the company and the engineer, potentially contravening data protection regulations. Another incorrect approach is to report the vulnerability only to the vendor without informing internal stakeholders or management. While informing the vendor is necessary, bypassing internal reporting structures can lead to a lack of oversight and coordinated response. This approach fails to uphold the engineer's responsibility to their employer and can hinder the organization's ability to manage the risk effectively, potentially violating internal security policies and best practices for incident response. A third incorrect approach is to attempt to fix the vulnerability independently without proper authorization or vendor collaboration. This could introduce new, unforeseen issues, compromise the integrity of the integration, or violate licensing agreements. It bypasses established security protocols and vendor support channels, demonstrating a lack of professional judgment and potentially creating more significant problems than it solves, which is contrary to responsible engineering practices. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes security and ethical conduct. This involves 1. Identifying and understanding the potential risks and their impact. 2. Consulting relevant organizational policies, industry best practices, and any applicable regulatory frameworks. 3. Communicating findings clearly and transparently through established channels. 4. Collaborating with relevant teams and stakeholders to find appropriate solutions. 5. Documenting all actions and decisions. In this case, the engineer's primary responsibility is to ensure the security of the deployed solutions, even if it means addressing potential delays. Question 3. Upon reviewing a potential Cisco collaboration solution for a client, a vendor offers to provide a demonstration of their product's capabilities. The vendor's representative suggests a standard, high-level overview of features, emphasizing their product's advanced functionalities. The engineer is aware that the client's primary concern is seamless integration with their existing complex Cisco Unified Communications Manager (CUCM) environment and potential challenges in migrating existing call flows. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible approach for the engineer to take? Option A. Agree to the standard demonstration and immediately recommend the solution to the client based on the vendor's claims, trusting their expertise in integration. Option B. Suggest the client's IT team independently research the vendor's integration capabilities online and make their own assessment before the engineer reviews any vendor-provided materials. Option C. Politely decline the standard demonstration and request a tailored session that specifically addresses the client's integration challenges with CUCM and migration of call flows, outlining specific use cases to be tested. Option D. Accept the vendor's offer for a standard demonstration to get a general understanding of the product, assuming the vendor will address integration concerns if specifically asked during the session. The correct answer is C. Politely decline the standard demonstration and request a tailored session that specifically addresses the client's integration challenges with CUCM and migration of call flows, outlining specific use cases to be tested. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a vendor's desire to showcase their product's capabilities and the engineer's responsibility to provide objective, unbiased advice to their client. The engineer must navigate this situation without compromising their professional integrity or the client's trust. The pressure to accept a potentially biased demonstration, coupled with the desire to maintain a good vendor relationship, creates a complex ethical landscape. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes the client's best interests and upholds professional integrity. By requesting a demonstration that focuses on the specific integration challenges and potential solutions relevant to the client's existing infrastructure, the engineer ensures the evaluation is objective and directly addresses the client's needs. This aligns with ethical guidelines that mandate professionals to act with honesty, integrity, and in the best interest of their clients. It also reflects a commitment to providing accurate and unbiased technical assessments, which is crucial for informed decision-making. Incorrect approach is analysis. Accepting the vendor's offer for a generic demonstration without clearly defining the scope and objectives risks receiving a biased presentation that highlights only the vendor's strengths and glosses over potential integration issues or limitations. This could lead the client to make a decision based on incomplete or misleading information, violating the engineer's duty of care. Focusing solely on the vendor's claims without independent verification or a tailored demonstration fails to adequately assess the solution's suitability for the client's unique environment. This approach neglects the engineer's responsibility to conduct due diligence and provide a thorough, objective evaluation, potentially exposing the client to unforeseen technical difficulties and costs. Pushing for immediate implementation based on a preliminary, unverified understanding of the vendor's solution bypasses critical evaluation steps. This is a direct abdication of professional responsibility, as it prioritizes expediency over thoroughness and client protection, potentially leading to significant technical failures and financial losses for the client. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes client welfare and ethical conduct. This involves clearly defining project requirements, conducting thorough and objective evaluations of potential solutions, and maintaining transparency with all stakeholders. When faced with vendor-provided demonstrations, it is crucial to establish clear objectives and success criteria beforehand, ensuring the demonstration directly addresses the client's specific needs and challenges rather than generic marketing points. Maintaining professional skepticism and seeking independent verification are also key components of sound professional judgment. Question 4. Governance review demonstrates that the current automated provisioning of new user collaboration accounts lacks granular checks for data residency requirements, potentially leading to non-compliance with data localization mandates. Which approach best mitigates this risk while enabling efficient user onboarding? Option A. Update the automation script to only provision accounts for users whose roles are explicitly defined as not requiring specific data residency controls. Option B. Rely on the underlying Cisco collaboration platform's default security settings to manage data residency, assuming they are sufficient for all regulatory needs. Option C. Implement a manual review process for all new user accounts to verify data residency compliance after the automation has completed provisioning. Option D. Enhance the automation script to query user location data and enforce data residency policies during account creation, ensuring collaboration data is stored within approved geographical boundaries. The correct answer is D. Enhance the automation script to query user location data and enforce data residency policies during account creation, ensuring collaboration data is stored within approved geographical boundaries. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in implementing automated collaboration solutions within a regulated environment. The core difficulty lies in balancing the efficiency gains offered by automation with the stringent requirements for data privacy, security, and auditability mandated by regulatory frameworks. Specifically, the need to ensure that automated processes do not inadvertently expose sensitive information or bypass established security controls is paramount. The challenge is amplified by the dynamic nature of collaboration data and the potential for automation scripts to interact with this data in unforeseen ways. Professional judgment is required to select an automation strategy that is both effective and compliant. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves integrating security and compliance checks directly into the automation workflow. This means that before any automated action is taken on collaboration data, the system must verify that the action adheres to defined security policies and regulatory requirements. This could involve using APIs to query access control lists, checking data classification labels, and ensuring that data is only processed or stored in approved locations. This proactive, security-by-design methodology ensures that compliance is not an afterthought but a fundamental component of the automation, thereby minimizing the risk of breaches or non-compliance. This aligns with the principle of least privilege and data minimization, which are cornerstones of many data protection regulations. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing automation without explicit security and compliance validation mechanisms represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach assumes that the underlying collaboration platform security is sufficient, which is often not the case when introducing new automated data manipulation. It creates a blind spot where sensitive data could be inadvertently exposed, modified, or exfiltrated without detection, leading to potential violations of data privacy laws and security standards. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on post-automation audits to detect compliance issues. While audits are important, they are reactive. By the time an audit identifies a problem, the damage may have already been done, and the organization could face penalties for non-compliance. This approach fails to implement preventative controls, which are a fundamental expectation in regulated industries for managing risk. Finally, attempting to automate without understanding the specific data governance policies applicable to the collaboration data is a critical oversight. Each type of collaboration data, e.g., chat messages, meeting recordings, shared documents, may have different retention, access, and privacy requirements. Automating without this granular understanding risks violating these specific policies, even if general security measures are in place. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to adhere to the principle of lawful and fair processing of data. Professional reasoning. Professionals tasked with automating Cisco collaboration solutions must adopt a risk-based approach. This involves first identifying the types of data being automated, understanding the relevant regulatory requirements, e.g., data privacy, data retention, security standards, and then designing automation workflows that embed compliance checks. This requires close collaboration with legal, compliance, and security teams. The decision-making process should prioritize preventative controls over reactive measures. When evaluating automation tools or scripts, professionals should ask, does this automation inherently enforce our compliance policies, or does it create new compliance risks? The goal is to build automation that is not just efficient but also trustworthy and compliant by design. Question 5. Examination of the data shows that a critical customer collaboration service is experiencing intermittent failures, impacting user productivity. While investigating, you discover that the root cause appears to be an unauthorized configuration change made to a network device that handles authentication for the service. The customer is demanding an immediate fix, and the standard process for investigating such changes involves a multi-day security review and approval cycle. You have the technical expertise to revert the change quickly, but doing so would bypass the established security review process. Option A. Escalate the issue to the security team immediately, providing all relevant technical details and requesting an expedited review of the unauthorized change to allow for a swift resolution. Option B. Inform the customer that the issue is being investigated and that the resolution will take the standard time required for security reviews, even if it means extended downtime. Option C. Access the customer's sensitive collaboration data to identify if the configuration change has caused any data integrity issues, and then revert the change to restore service. Option D. Directly revert the unauthorized configuration change to restore service, and then document the action as a corrective measure without mentioning the bypass of the security review. Correct answer is A. Escalate the issue to the security team immediately, providing all relevant technical details and requesting an expedited review of the unauthorized change to allow for a swift resolution. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it involves a conflict between the desire to quickly resolve a customer issue and the obligation to adhere to established security protocols and data privacy regulations. The engineer is under pressure to deliver a solution, but doing so without proper authorization or by circumventing security measures could lead to significant compliance violations and security breaches. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes data security and regulatory compliance. By escalating the issue to the security team and following established incident response procedures, the engineer ensures that any access to sensitive data is logged, audited, and performed by authorized personnel. This aligns with the principles of least privilege and the need for a documented, controlled process when dealing with potential security vulnerabilities or unauthorized access, which are fundamental to maintaining trust and adhering to data protection laws. An incorrect approach that involves directly accessing the customer's sensitive data without explicit authorization or bypassing security controls is a direct violation of data privacy regulations and company policy. This could lead to severe penalties, including fines and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach, such as fabricating logs or downplaying the severity of the issue to avoid escalation, constitutes unethical behavior and a failure to uphold professional integrity. This undermines the trust placed in the engineer and the organization. A third incorrect approach, which involves sharing sensitive customer information with unauthorized internal personnel, also breaches confidentiality agreements and data protection laws. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the core problem and its potential implications. This involves understanding the relevant regulatory landscape and company policies. When faced with a situation that could compromise security or compliance, the immediate step should be to consult and follow established incident response and escalation procedures. This ensures that the situation is handled transparently, securely, and in accordance with legal and ethical obligations. Documenting all actions and communications throughout the process is also crucial for accountability and auditability. Question 6. Performance analysis shows that the automated Cisco collaboration solution is experiencing frequent data access errors when interacting with a newly integrated third-party analytics service. The integration was prioritized for its advanced reporting capabilities, and the deployment team proceeded with minimal review of the service's specific data handling protocols, assuming general cloud compliance. The errors are occurring primarily when the system attempts to retrieve detailed user activity logs for analysis. Which of the following approaches best addresses this situation, while adhering to U.S. regulatory frameworks for data privacy and security? Option A. Instruct the analytics service provider to adjust their API to mask sensitive data fields before transmission, without conducting a formal audit of their overall data security posture. Option B. Continue the data retrieval process, but implement a post-processing data anonymization script to remove personally identifiable information before it is stored, accepting the risk of temporary noncompliance. Option C. Escalate the issue to the vendor support team for a quick fix to the API errors, assuming the underlying data access issues are purely technical and not related to compliance. Option D. Immediately halt all data retrieval from the third-party analytics service and initiate a full compliance audit of the service's data handling practices, including its adherence to relevant U.S. data privacy laws, while simultaneously exploring alternative, pre-vetted services. The correct answer is D. Immediately halt all data retrieval from the third-party analytics service and initiate a full compliance audit of the service's data handling practices, including its adherence to relevant U.S. data privacy laws, while simultaneously exploring alternative, pre-vetted services. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in automating collaboration solutions, balancing the need for rapid deployment and feature iteration with the imperative to maintain data privacy and security, especially when dealing with sensitive customer information. The challenge lies in the inherent tension between agile development practices, which often favor quick integration of third-party services, and the stringent regulatory requirements for data handling and consent management. Professionals must navigate this by ensuring that automation workflows are designed with compliance as a foundational element, not an afterthought. The risk of noncompliance, particularly under U.S. regulations like HIPAA for healthcare data or GDPR if applicable to customer data, can lead to significant financial penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a proactive, risk-based assessment of all integrated third-party services. This means thoroughly vetting each service for its data handling policies, security certifications, and compliance with relevant U.S. data privacy laws. Implementing robust consent management mechanisms within the automated workflows ensures that user data is only processed with explicit permission, aligning with principles of data minimization and purpose limitation. This approach demonstrates best professional practice by embedding compliance into the design and operational phases of automation, thereby mitigating risks and fostering a culture of responsible data stewardship. It directly addresses the regulatory requirement to protect sensitive information and ensure lawful processing. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to prioritize speed of deployment over thorough due diligence of third-party services. This failure to vet services for their compliance posture can lead to the inadvertent use of tools that do not meet U.S. data privacy standards, potentially exposing sensitive customer data to unauthorized access or misuse. This violates the fundamental ethical and regulatory obligation to protect user data. Another incorrect approach is to assume that all cloud-based collaboration tools inherently comply with relevant U.S. regulations without explicit verification. This assumption can lead to overlooking specific data handling practices of individual services that might fall short of legal requirements, such as inadequate data encryption or insufficient access controls. This represents a failure in professional diligence and a disregard for the nuances of data protection laws. Finally, an approach that bypasses or inadequately implements consent mechanisms for data processing within automated workflows is also professionally unacceptable. This directly contravenes regulations that mandate user consent for data collection and processing, especially for sensitive information. It erodes user trust and exposes the organization to significant legal repercussions. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a compliance-by-design mindset when automating Cisco collaboration solutions. This involves 1. Risk assessment. Before integrating any third-party service or automating a process, conduct a comprehensive risk assessment focusing on data privacy and security implications. 2. Due diligence. Thoroughly research and verify the compliance certifications and data handling policies of all integrated components. 3. Consent management. Design automation workflows to include explicit and granular consent mechanisms for data processing. 4. Continuous monitoring. Regularly review and audit automated processes and integrated services to ensure ongoing compliance. 5. Documentation. Maintain clear records of all compliance assessments, decisions, and implemented controls. This structured approach ensures that automation efforts are not only efficient, but also legally sound and ethically responsible, safeguarding both the organization and its users. Question 7. When evaluating the implementation of a new AI-powered transcription service for Cisco collaboration meetings, which approach best ensures compliance with data privacy regulations and ethical data handling practices? Option A. Rely solely on the vendor's assurances of compliance with data protection laws and proceed with deployment, as the vendor is responsible for the service's security. Option B. Immediately enable the AI transcription feature for all meetings to maximize its utility and gather immediate feedback, assuming the vendor's security measures are adequate. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive data protection impact assessment (DPIA), obtain necessary consents from participants where required, and implement robust data anonymization techniques before enabling the feature. Option D. Enable the feature for internal testing only and then deploy it broadly without further assessment, as the data is considered internal and less sensitive. Correct answer is B. Immediately enable the AI transcription feature for all meetings to maximize its utility and gather immediate feedback, assuming the vendor's security measures are adequate. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid deployment of new collaboration features and the need to ensure compliance with data privacy regulations. The organization is eager to leverage advanced AI-driven transcription services to improve meeting accessibility and searchability, but the implementation must be carefully managed to avoid unauthorized data handling or breaches. The core of the challenge lies in balancing innovation with the stringent requirements of data protection laws. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough risk assessment and the implementation of robust security controls before enabling the AI transcription feature. This aligns with best professional practices by embedding security and compliance into the design and deployment lifecycle. Specifically, it demonstrates a commitment to the principle of privacy by design, a cornerstone of many data protection regulations. By conducting a data protection impact assessment, DPIA, the organization proactively identifies potential risks to individuals' data and implements mitigation strategies, obtaining explicit consent from participants, where applicable, and ensuring data is processed in accordance with the organization's privacy policy and relevant data protection laws are critical steps. This approach ensures that the technology is deployed responsibly, minimizing the likelihood of regulatory violations and maintaining user trust. An incorrect approach that immediately enables the AI transcription feature without any prior assessment or controls fails to uphold regulatory obligations. This could lead to the unauthorized processing of sensitive personal data, potentially violating data subject rights and leading to significant fines and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on the vendor's compliance claims without independent verification is also professionally unsound. While vendors have responsibilities, the deploying organization remains accountable for ensuring its own compliance. This oversight could result in a false sense of security and expose the organization to regulatory scrutiny if the vendor's claims are inaccurate or their security measures are insufficient. A third incorrect approach that attempts to anonymize data post-processing, without a clear understanding of what constitutes effective anonymization in the context of AI-generated transcripts, is also problematic. Incomplete or ineffective anonymization can still leave personal data vulnerable, failing to meet the standards required by data protection laws. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the regulatory landscape and the specific data being handled. This involves a proactive risk assessment, including a DPIA, to identify potential impacts on data privacy. Subsequently, appropriate technical and organizational measures should be designed and implemented to mitigate identified risks. This includes obtaining necessary consents, establishing clear data handling policies, and ensuring vendor due diligence. Continuous monitoring and review of implemented controls are also essential to adapt to evolving threats and regulatory requirements. Question 8. Analysis of the most effective and compliant strategy for automating user provisioning and deprovisioning within Cisco Unified Communications Manager, CUCM, and Cisco Unity Connection, considering the need for auditable access controls and adherence to data privacy regulations. Option A. Utilizing a third-party, unverified automation tool that claims to streamline user management but lacks official Cisco support and detailed audit logging capabilities. Option B. Developing custom scripts that manipulate configuration files on CUCM and Unity connection servers without using official APIs, relying on manual verification of changes. Option C. Implementing a Python script that directly interacts with CUCM and Unity connection APIs, integrated with an existing identity and access management (IAM) system for user data synchronization and role-based access control enforcement. Option D. Automating user creation and deletion solely through the CUCM and Unity connection graphical user interfaces, GUI, with manual user input for each action. The correct answer is C. Implementing a Python script that directly interacts with CUCM and Unity connection APIs, integrated with an existing identity and access management (IAM) system for user data synchronization and role-based access control enforcement. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in selecting the most appropriate automation strategy for Cisco collaboration solutions within a regulated environment. The challenge lies in balancing the efficiency gains of automation with the stringent compliance requirements inherent in many industries. Organizations must ensure that automated processes not only function correctly, but also adhere to specific regulatory frameworks, data privacy laws, and security protocols. Failure to do so can result in significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and operational disruptions. The need for a robust, auditable, and compliant automation solution is paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves leveraging Cisco's native automation tools and APIs, such as those provided by Cisco Unified Communications Manager, CUCM, and Cisco Unity Connection, in conjunction with a robust scripting language like Python. This method is best professional practice because it directly utilizes the vendor's supported interfaces, ensuring compatibility, stability, and access to the latest features and security patches. Cisco's APIs are designed with enterprise-grade security and auditability in mind, aligning with regulatory requirements for data integrity and access control. Furthermore, using vendor-supported tools simplifies troubleshooting and maintenance, and often provides built-in logging mechanisms crucial for compliance audits. This approach prioritizes a secure, integrated, and auditable automation framework, directly addressing the need for regulatory adherence. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves relying solely on third-party, unsupported scripts or tools that interact with Cisco collaboration systems through undocumented or reverse-engineered methods. This is professionally unacceptable because it bypasses vendor-supported security measures and can introduce vulnerabilities. Such methods lack official support, making troubleshooting difficult and potentially leading to system instability. From a regulatory standpoint, using undocumented interfaces can violate compliance mandates that require auditable and verifiable system configurations and operations. Data processed or manipulated by these unsupported tools may not meet data privacy or integrity standards. Another incorrect approach is to automate configuration changes without implementing a rigorous change management and rollback strategy. This is professionally unsound as it significantly increases the risk of unintended consequences, service outages, and data corruption. In a regulated environment, a lack of auditable change control is a direct violation of many compliance frameworks, e.g., SOX, HIPAA, GDPR, which mandate clear documentation of all system modifications, their justifications, and the ability to revert to a known good state. This approach fails to provide the necessary accountability and audit trails required for compliance. A third incorrect approach is to automate user provisioning and deprovisioning processes without integrating with existing identity and access management (IAM) systems or implementing robust role-based access control (RBAC) within the automation scripts. This creates significant security risks and compliance failures. It can lead to unauthorized access, privilege creep, and data breaches, violating principles of least privilege and data protection. Regulatory frameworks often mandate strict controls over user access and data segregation, which are undermined by poorly integrated or unsecured automation of user lifecycle management. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a decision-making process that prioritizes security, compliance, and vendor best practices. When considering automation for Cisco collaboration solution, the first step is to identify the specific regulatory requirements applicable to the organization's industry and jurisdiction. Next, evaluate available automation tools and methods based on their adherence to these regulations, their integration capabilities with existing infrastructure, and vendor support. Prioritize solutions that offer comprehensive logging, auditable change control, and robust security features. Always conduct thorough testing in a non-production environment before deploying any automation solution. Implement a strong change management process that includes peer review, testing, and rollback plans. Regularly review and update automation scripts and processes to ensure ongoing compliance and security. Question 9. The monitoring system demonstrates a consistent pattern of minor delays in call routing for a specific user group within the Cisco collaboration environment. To address this, a proposed automation strategy involves implementing a script to dynamically reprioritize these users' call queues based on real-time network conditions. Which of the following approaches best optimizes this process while adhering to best practices for automated solutions? Option A. Remove the affected user group from the automated call routing system entirely and revert to manual call handling to eliminate the delays. Option B. Immediately deploy the dynamic reprioritization script to all affected users to resolve the issue as quickly as possible, assuming the script's logic is sound. Option C. Deploy the dynamic reprioritization script without extensive lab testing, relying on the vendor's documentation and a quick production verification to gauge its effectiveness. Option D. Implement the dynamic reprioritization script after thorough testing in a lab environment that closely mirrors production, followed by a phased rollout to the affected user group with continuous monitoring of key performance indicators and a defined rollback plan. Correct answer is D. Implement the dynamic reprioritization script after thorough testing in a lab environment that closely mirrors production, followed by a phased rollout to the affected user group with continuous monitoring of key performance indicators and a defined rollback plan. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in balancing the efficiency gains of automation with the need for robust, auditable processes, particularly within the context of regulatory compliance. The core difficulty lies in ensuring that automated solutions, while streamlining operations, do not inadvertently introduce risks or obscure critical decision-making points that could impact service delivery or compliance. Careful judgment is required to select automation strategies that enhance, rather than compromise, process integrity and oversight. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a phased, iterative implementation of automation, coupled with continuous monitoring and validation. This aligns with principles of responsible technology adoption, ensuring that changes are understood, tested, and their impact on overall process performance and compliance is quantifiable. By focusing on specific, measurable improvements and maintaining human oversight at critical junctures, this method upholds the integrity of the collaboration solution and its adherence to any applicable regulatory frameworks governing data handling, service availability, and security within the specified jurisdiction. This methodical approach minimizes disruption and allows for timely adjustments, thereby safeguarding against unintended consequences. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on rapid deployment without adequate testing or validation poses significant regulatory and ethical failures. It risks introducing unforeseen bugs or vulnerabilities into the automated workflows, potentially leading to service disruptions, data breaches, or non-compliance with data privacy regulations. Another incorrect approach that removes human oversight entirely from critical decision points, even in automated processes, can lead to a lack of accountability and an inability to respond effectively to exceptions or anomalies. This can violate ethical obligations to maintain service quality and can be a direct contravention of regulations requiring human review for certain operational decisions or incident responses. Furthermore, an approach that prioritizes cost reduction over process robustness and security can lead to the adoption of solutions that are inherently less reliable or more susceptible to failure, creating a compliance risk and an ethical concern regarding the duty of care to users and stakeholders. Professional decision-making in such situations should involve a risk-based assessment of automation opportunities. This includes understanding the specific regulatory requirements of the jurisdiction, identifying critical process steps that require human judgment or oversight, and evaluating the potential impact of automation on service quality, security, and compliance. A structured approach, such as pilot deployments, phased rollouts, and continuous performance monitoring with clear rollback strategies, is essential. Professionals should always ask, does this automation enhance our ability to meet our regulatory obligations and ethical commitments, or does it introduce new risks? Question 10. The control framework reveals that a new Cisco collaboration solution is being automated using CLAUTO. The organization operates under strict data privacy regulations that mandate specific consent mechanisms and data handling procedures for user communications. Which approach best ensures that the automation of this collaboration solution remains compliant with these data privacy regulations? Option A. Focus on achieving the desired technical functionality and efficiency of the automated collaboration solution, assuming that standard security practices will inherently satisfy data privacy requirements. Option B. Implement the automation based on general best practices for collaboration solutions, and then conduct a post-deployment audit to identify and remediate any potential data privacy gaps. Option C. Rely on the default compliance statements provided by Cisco for their collaboration products in CLAUTO, without conducting independent verification of how the automation specifically addresses the organization's unique regulatory obligations. Option D. Design the automation workflows to explicitly incorporate and enforce the required consent mechanisms and data handling procedures, validating each step against the specific regulatory clauses. The correct answer is D. Design the automation workflows to explicitly incorporate and enforce the required consent mechanisms and data handling procedures, validating each step against the specific regulatory clauses. Explanation. The control framework reveals a scenario where a Cisco collaboration solution, automated using Cisco's CLAUTO framework, is being deployed in a regulated environment. The challenge lies in ensuring that the automation processes themselves adhere to the specific regulatory requirements of the jurisdiction governing the deployment. This is professionally challenging because automation, while designed for efficiency and consistency, can inadvertently introduce new compliance risks if not carefully designed and validated against the applicable regulatory landscape. The core of the challenge is moving beyond simply automating technical tasks to automating compliance. Correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a proactive, risk-based methodology that integrates regulatory considerations from the outset of the automation design. By involving compliance and legal teams early, and by mapping automation logic directly to regulatory mandates, the solution ensures that the automated processes are not only functional but also compliant. This aligns with the principle of compliance by design, a cornerstone of modern regulatory adherence. It demonstrates a commitment to due diligence and a thorough understanding of the operational and legal implications of the automated system. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on technical functionality without considering regulatory implications represents a significant ethical and regulatory failure. It risks deploying a system that, while technically sound, operates in violation of established laws and guidelines. This could lead to severe penalties, reputational damage, and operational disruption. Another incorrect approach, which attempts to retroactively apply compliance checks after automation is built, is inefficient and prone to errors. It fails to address the inherent risks introduced during the design phase and can lead to costly rework and potential noncompliance during the interim period. A third incorrect approach, relying on vendor-provided compliance statements without independent verification, abrogates professional responsibility. While vendors provide guidance, the ultimate responsibility for compliance rests with the deploying organization, and blind reliance is a failure of due diligence. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the regulatory environment. This involves identifying all applicable laws, regulations, and industry guidelines. Next, they should map these requirements to the specific functionalities and workflows of the collaboration solution being automated. The automation design process must then explicitly incorporate controls and validation mechanisms to ensure adherence to these mapped requirements. Regular audits and reviews, involving both technical and compliance personnel, are crucial throughout the lifecycle of the automated solution. Question 11. Research into automating customer support ticket routing and response generation reveals a need to integrate with a customer relationship management (CRM) system that contains personally identifiable information (PI) and sensitive financial details. The goal is to automate ticket categorization and draft initial responses based on ticket content. What is the most responsible approach to ensure compliance with data privacy regulations during the development and deployment of this automation? Option A. Automate the process immediately to gain efficiency and address any potential data privacy concerns through post-deployment audits and manual remediation. Option B. Implement data masking and anonymization techniques for PII and financial data within the automation workflow before it interacts with the CRM, and ensure the automation only accesses necessary data fields. Option C. Develop the automation to extract all available customer data from the CRM to enrich the response generation process, assuming broader data access leads to better automation. Option D. Proceed with direct integration and automation, relying on the existing security measures of the CRM and the automation platform to protect the data. Correct answer is B. Implement data masking and anonymization techniques for PII and financial data within the automation workflow before it interacts with the CRM, and ensure the automation only accesses necessary data fields. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in implementing automated collaboration solutions, balancing the need for efficient, automated workflows with the critical requirement of data privacy and security, particularly concerning sensitive customer information. The professional challenge lies in designing and deploying a solution that meets business objectives without inadvertently creating vulnerabilities or violating regulatory mandates. Careful judgment is required to select automation strategies that are both effective and compliant. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the data being processed and the applicable regulatory landscape before implementing automation. By identifying sensitive data and applying appropriate anonymization or pseudonymization techniques, the solution adheres to the principles of data minimization and privacy by design, which are fundamental to many data protection regulations. This proactive stance ensures that the automation process itself does not expose or mishandle protected information, thereby safeguarding customer trust and avoiding legal repercussions. An incorrect approach that involves automating data processing without first assessing the sensitivity of the data and implementing necessary safeguards is professionally unacceptable. This failure constitutes a direct violation of data protection principles, potentially leading to breaches of confidentiality and unauthorized access to sensitive information. Such an oversight can result in significant regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer confidence. Another incorrect approach, which relies solely on the inherent security of the automation platform without considering the data's classification or the specific compliance requirements of the organization, is also professionally flawed. Security measures on the platform are necessary but not always sufficient. Without understanding the data's context and regulatory obligations, the platform's security might not adequately protect against all potential risks, especially those related to specific data types or industry regulations. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment. This begins with clearly defining the scope of the automation, identifying all data flows, and classifying the data involved based on its sensitivity and regulatory implications. Subsequently, appropriate security and privacy controls must be designed and implemented in alignment with relevant legal frameworks. Continuous monitoring and auditing of the automated processes are essential to ensure ongoing compliance and to adapt to evolving threats and regulations. Question 12. Cost-benefit analysis shows that deploying a new automated Cisco collaboration solution could significantly reduce operational overhead and deployment time. However, the proposed automation script has not undergone the full suite of security penetration testing and compliance validation due to project timeline pressures. What is the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Proceed with the deployment, prioritizing the immediate cost savings and efficiency gains, and address any security or compliance issues that may arise post-deployment. Option B. Halt the deployment and insist on completing all required security penetration testing and compliance validation, even if it means delaying the project and potentially incurring additional costs in the short term. Option C. Delegate the responsibility of security validation to the vendor of the automation script, assuming their internal testing is sufficient for organizational deployment. Option D. Deploy the automation script to a limited, non-critical segment of the collaboration environment to test its functionality, with the understanding that full security validation will be completed later. The correct answer is A. Proceed with the deployment, prioritizing the immediate cost savings and efficiency gains, and address any security or compliance issues that may arise post-deployment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common ethical dilemma in IT automation projects where a perceived shortcut could lead to significant security and compliance risks. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate benefits of faster deployment against the long-term consequences of neglecting established security protocols. The pressure to deliver quickly can create a conflict between project timelines and the imperative to maintain a secure and compliant environment, requiring careful judgment and adherence to established best practices. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes security and compliance by ensuring all automated solutions undergo rigorous security testing and validation against established organizational policies and relevant regulations. This aligns with the principle of security by design and demonstrates a commitment to responsible automation. In the context of Cisco collaboration solutions, this would involve verifying that the automation scripts do not introduce vulnerabilities, comply with data privacy regulations e.g. GDPR if applicable to the jurisdiction, though for this exam we assume a US-centric regulatory framework unless otherwise specified, and adhere to Cisco's own security best practices for its platforms. This approach ensures that the automation, while efficient, does not compromise the integrity or security of the collaboration environment, thereby protecting sensitive data and maintaining user trust. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves deploying the automation without comprehensive security validation, relying solely on the perceived trustworthiness of the automation tool or script. This is a direct violation of security best practices and potentially regulatory requirements that mandate due diligence in deploying new technologies. It creates a significant risk of introducing vulnerabilities that could be exploited, leading to data breaches or service disruptions. Another incorrect approach is to bypass the security review process by claiming the automation is for a non-critical system. This is a dangerous rationalization, as any system handling communication or user data can become critical in the event of a security incident. Furthermore, it undermines the established security framework and sets a precedent for future non-compliance. A third incorrect approach might be to argue that the cost savings from skipping security validation outweigh the potential risks. This is a flawed cost-benefit analysis that fails to account for the potentially catastrophic financial and reputational damage of a security breach, which far exceeds any short-term savings. It also disregards the ethical obligation to protect user data and maintain system integrity. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to automation. This involves identifying potential risks associated with the automation, assessing their likelihood and impact, and implementing appropriate controls. When faced with pressure to expedite a project, professionals must advocate for adherence to security and compliance protocols, clearly articulating the risks of non-compliance. The decision-making process should involve consulting relevant organizational policies, industry best practices, and any applicable regulatory frameworks. If there is ambiguity, seeking guidance from security and compliance teams is essential. The ultimate goal is to achieve automation benefits without compromising security, privacy, or regulatory adherence. Question 13. Risk assessment procedures indicate that the implementation of new Cisco collaboration automation features is proceeding at a rapid pace, with a strong emphasis on delivering new functionalities to end users quickly. Which approach best balances the need for innovation with the imperative of maintaining a secure and compliant operational environment? Option A. Implement security patches and updates only after a critical vulnerability has been publicly disclosed and exploited in similar environments. Option B. Rely solely on the security assurances and documentation provided by the Cisco vendor for all implemented automation features, without conducting independent verification or context-specific risk analysis. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive, documented risk assessment for each new feature set before deployment, focusing on potential security, privacy, and operational impacts, and integrate mitigation strategies into the deployment plan. Option D. Prioritize the immediate deployment of all new automation features to gain a competitive advantage, and address any security or compliance concerns that arise retrospectively. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive, documented risk assessment for each new feature set before deployment, focusing on potential security, privacy, and operational impacts, and integrate mitigation strategies into the deployment plan. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in implementing automated collaboration solutions, balancing the need for rapid deployment and feature enhancement with the imperative to maintain robust security and compliance. The pressure to deliver new functionalities quickly can lead to shortcuts in the risk assessment process, potentially exposing the organization to vulnerabilities. The professional challenge lies in advocating for and executing a thorough risk assessment that aligns with regulatory requirements without unduly hindering innovation. This requires a deep understanding of both the technical capabilities of the automation solution and the specific compliance obligations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented process of identifying, analyzing, and mitigating risks associated with the automation solution's integration and operation. This aligns with general principles of IT governance, and more specifically, with the need for organizations to demonstrate due diligence in managing technology risks. For the 300-835 CLAUTO exam, this translates to understanding how automation tools can impact security controls, data privacy, and service availability, and ensuring that these impacts are assessed against relevant Cisco best practices and any applicable industry or governmental regulations that might be implied by the context of a Cisco solution. Though specific regulations are not provided for this exam, the principle of compliance is paramount. A proactive, risk-based approach ensures that security and compliance are built into the automation strategy from the outset, rather than being an afterthought. This demonstrates a commitment to responsible technology adoption and adherence to the spirit of regulatory frameworks that mandate risk management. Incorrect approaches analysis. Focusing solely on the speed of deployment without a commensurate risk assessment is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It implies a disregard for potential security breaches, data exfiltration, or service disruptions, which could lead to non-compliance with data protection laws and industry standards. Prioritizing feature velocity over security and compliance is a direct contravention of the principle of security by design and privacy by design. Implementing security patches only after a vulnerability has been exploited is reactive and fails to meet the proactive requirements of most regulatory frameworks. It indicates a lack of foresight and a failure to establish robust vulnerability management processes, which are essential for maintaining a secure operational environment. This approach exposes the organization to unnecessary risk and potential breaches. Relying exclusively on vendor-provided security documentation without independent verification or tailored risk assessment is insufficient. While vendor documentation is a valuable starting point, it may not address the specific deployment context, integration points, or unique threat landscape of the adopting organization. A failure to conduct an independent, context-specific risk assessment can lead to overlooked vulnerabilities and noncompliance. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a phased approach to automation implementation that explicitly includes risk assessment at each stage. This involves 1. Understanding the scope and impact of the automation solution on existing infrastructure and data flows. 2. Identifying potential threats and vulnerabilities, considering both technical and operational aspects. 3. Analyzing the likelihood and impact of identified risks. 4. Developing and implementing mitigation strategies, including security controls, access management, and monitoring. 5. Documenting the entire process and regularly reviewing and updating the risk assessment as the automation solution evolves or the threat landscape changes. This structured approach ensures that risk management is an integral part of the automation lifecycle, fostering a culture of security and compliance. Question 14. Which approach would be most effective in ensuring that the automation of Cisco collaboration solutions adheres to regulatory requirements and ethical standards throughout the implementation lifecycle? Option A. Proceeding with automation based on vendor best practices and assuming that standard security configurations will satisfy all regulatory obligations. Option B. Relying on post-implementation audits to identify and rectify any regulatory or ethical shortcomings in the automated collaboration environment. Option C. Conducting a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates potential effects on data privacy, security, service availability, and compliance prior to automation deployment. Option D. Implementing automation incrementally and addressing any compliance or security issues as they arise during the operational phase. The correct answer is C. Conducting a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates potential effects on data privacy, security, service availability, and compliance prior to automation deployment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. Implementing automation in Cisco collaboration solutions, particularly when dealing with sensitive data or regulated industries, presents a significant challenge. The core difficulty lies in balancing the efficiency gains of automation with the imperative to maintain compliance with relevant regulations and ethical standards. A misstep can lead to data breaches, service disruptions, regulatory penalties, and reputational damage. The professional challenge is to proactively identify and mitigate these risks before deployment, ensuring that automation enhances, rather than compromises, the integrity and security of the collaboration environment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that specifically evaluates the potential effects of automation on data privacy, security, service availability, and compliance with relevant regulations. This assessment should be conducted before the automation is implemented. It requires a thorough understanding of the specific Cisco collaboration technologies being automated, e.g., Cisco Unified Communications Manager, Cisco Expressway, Cisco WebEx Control Hub, the data flows involved, and the regulatory landscape applicable to the organization's operations. This proactive, risk-based methodology ensures that potential issues are identified and addressed through appropriate controls, design changes, or policy adjustments, thereby upholding regulatory requirements and ethical obligations. This aligns with principles of responsible innovation and due diligence in technology deployment. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing automation without a prior impact assessment is a direct violation of due diligence and risk management principles. It exposes the organization to significant regulatory and ethical failures. For instance, failing to assess the impact on data privacy could lead to non-compliance with data protection laws, resulting in substantial fines and loss of customer trust. Similarly, neglecting to evaluate the effect on service availability could cause critical communication disruptions, impacting business operations and potentially violating service-level agreements or industry-specific regulations. Automating without understanding the security implications could introduce vulnerabilities, leading to unauthorized access or data breaches, which are severe ethical and regulatory breaches. Relying solely on vendor documentation without a tailored organizational impact assessment is also insufficient, as it does not account for the unique context, data, and regulatory obligations of the specific deployment. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, risk-aware approach to automation. This involves 1. Understanding the business objectives for automation. 2. Identifying the specific Cisco collaboration components and processes to be automated. 3. Conducting a thorough impact assessment covering technical, security, privacy, and compliance aspects. 4. Developing mitigation strategies for identified risks. 5. Implementing automation in a phased manner with rigorous testing and monitoring. 6. Regularly reviewing and updating automation strategies as technologies and regulations evolve. This systematic process ensures that automation is deployed responsibly, effectively, and in full adherence to all applicable legal and ethical frameworks. Question 15. The review process indicates that a new Cisco collaboration automation solution is being deployed to streamline user provisioning and call routing. The project team is under pressure to deliver the solution rapidly. Which approach best balances the need for speed with the imperative of maintaining data integrity and regulatory compliance? Option A. Develop automation scripts for provisioning and routing, and deploy them to production immediately after initial functional testing, deferring comprehensive data validation and security checks to a later maintenance cycle. Option B. Design and implement automation for provisioning and routing, incorporating automated data integrity validation and security checks within the CI/CD pipeline, followed by a phased rollout to production with ongoing monitoring. Option C. Focus automation efforts exclusively on call routing functionalities, leaving user provisioning to manual processes to minimize the complexity and potential for data errors in the automated system. Option D. Implement automated provisioning and routing directly into the production environment, relying on post-deployment monitoring to detect any data integrity issues. Correct answer is D. Implement automated provisioning and routing directly into the production environment, relying on post-deployment monitoring to detect any data integrity issues. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in balancing the efficiency gains of automation with the critical need for data integrity and compliance within a Cisco collaboration environment. The core difficulty lies in ensuring that automated processes, while streamlining operations, do not inadvertently compromise the accuracy or security of sensitive collaboration data, which could have significant regulatory implications. The pressure to deploy quickly can lead to shortcuts that bypass essential validation steps. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased deployment with rigorous testing and validation at each stage. This aligns with best practices for IT system implementation, emphasizing a fail-fast methodology. By integrating automated testing for data integrity and security checks directly into the CI/CD pipeline, the team ensures that any deviations or vulnerabilities are identified and rectified before they impact production. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of data corruption or unauthorized access, which is paramount for maintaining compliance with data handling regulations. The use of version control for automation scripts and configuration files further supports auditability and rollback capabilities, essential for regulatory adherence. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing automation without comprehensive data validation checks is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It creates a high risk of data corruption or loss, which can violate data protection laws and lead to severe penalties. This approach prioritizes speed over accuracy and security, demonstrating a lack of due diligence. Deploying automation directly to production without any intermediate testing or validation phases is a critical failure. This bypasses essential quality assurance and risk mitigation steps, exposing the organization to immediate operational disruptions and potential data breaches. It shows a disregard for established IT governance and risk management principles, focusing solely on the functional aspects of automation, e.g., call routing, user provisioning, while neglecting data integrity and security implications is another failure. Collaboration solutions handle sensitive information, and overlooking these aspects during automation can lead to non-compliance with data privacy regulations and a breach of trust with users. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to automation. This involves identifying critical data elements and processes, assessing the potential impact of automation failures, and implementing appropriate controls. A structured deployment methodology, incorporating continuous integration and continuous delivery, CI/CD, with integrated testing for data integrity and security, is essential. Regular audits and reviews of automation scripts and their impact on data are also crucial for maintaining compliance and operational excellence. Question 16. The analysis reveals that a new Cisco Unified Communications Manager, CUCM, integration, automated via Cisco's CLAUTO framework to streamline user provisioning and deprovisioning, is being considered for deployment within a financial services organization. The automation script handles user account creation, group assignments, and voicemail box setup. The primary concern is ensuring that this automated process adheres to the stringent data handling and audit trail requirements mandated by financial sector regulations within the specified jurisdiction. Which of the following approaches best addresses the potential regulatory impact of this automation? Option A. Conduct a thorough impact assessment that maps each step of the automated provisioning and deprovisioning process against relevant financial sector regulations, identifying any potential compliance gaps and developing specific remediation plans before deployment. Option B. Focus solely on the technical efficiency and speed of the automated user provisioning and deprovisioning, deferring any regulatory compliance considerations to a later phase of the project. Option C. Implement the automation with a general understanding of regulatory requirements, relying on the inherent security features of Cisco's collaboration products to ensure compliance without a specific, detailed impact assessment. Option D. Proceed with the automation deployment as planned, assuming that existing manual compliance checks will adequately cover the automated processes and address any identified issues reactively after the system is live. Correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough impact assessment that maps each step of the automated provisioning and deprovisioning process against relevant financial sector regulations, identifying any potential compliance gaps and developing specific remediation plans before deployment. Explanation. The analysis reveals a scenario where a Cisco collaboration solution, automated using Cisco's CLAUTO framework, is being deployed in a regulated environment. The professional challenge lies in ensuring that the automation, while enhancing efficiency, does not inadvertently introduce risks or compliance gaps that could lead to regulatory penalties or operational disruptions. Careful judgment is required to balance the benefits of automation with the imperative of adhering to established compliance frameworks. The correct approach, which involves a comprehensive impact assessment that explicitly considers the regulatory implications of the automated workflows, represents best professional practice. This is because it proactively identifies potential compliance risks before deployment. By mapping automated processes against relevant regulations, e.g., data privacy, security logging audit trails, accessibility standards as applicable within the specified jurisdiction, the team can implement necessary controls, modify automation logic, or seek explicit regulatory guidance. This aligns with the principle of compliance by design, ensuring that the automated solution inherently meets regulatory requirements, thereby minimizing the likelihood of future noncompliance and associated penalties. An incorrect approach that bypasses a thorough regulatory impact assessment, focusing solely on technical functionality, presents significant regulatory and ethical failures. Such an approach risks deploying a solution that, while technically sound, violates data handling mandates, fails to provide adequate audit trails for regulatory scrutiny, or compromises user privacy. This could lead to severe penalties, reputational damage, and a loss of trust from stakeholders and regulatory bodies. Another incorrect approach, which relies on post-deployment manual remediation of compliance issues, is also professionally unacceptable. This reactive strategy is inefficient, costly, and increases the risk of prolonged non-compliance. It demonstrates a lack of foresight and a failure to uphold professional responsibility in ensuring that automated systems are built with compliance as a foundational element. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a phased approach. First, clearly define the scope of the automation and the specific collaboration functionalities being addressed. Second, identify all applicable regulatory frameworks and guidelines relevant to the jurisdiction of deployment. Third, conduct a detailed impact assessment, mapping each automated workflow against these regulations to identify potential conflicts or gaps. Fourth, develop mitigation strategies, which may include adjusting automation scripts, implementing additional security controls, or seeking expert legal/compliance advice. Finally, establish a continuous monitoring and auditing process to ensure ongoing compliance as the solution evolves. Question 17. The risk matrix shows a moderate to high risk associated with the integration of third-party automation scripts into the existing Cisco Unified Communications Manager environment, specifically concerning potential unauthorized access to call detail records and user presence information. Which of the following automation strategies best addresses these identified risks while adhering to best practices for secure and compliant deployment? Option A. Implement a solution that utilizes Cisco's officially supported APIs and SDKs, coupled with a rigorous code review process for all custom scripts, and enforces least privilege access for the automation service account. Option B. Integrate automation by directly manipulating configuration files on Cisco collaboration endpoints, bypassing standard API interfaces to achieve faster deployment and assuming that endpoint security is sufficient. Option C. Deploy custom automation scripts directly onto Cisco collaboration servers, leveraging direct database access for efficiency, and relying on network segmentation as the primary security control. Option D. Utilize open-source automation tools with minimal configuration, assuming that community vetting inherently ensures security, and grant broad administrative privileges to the automation service account for ease of management. The correct answer is A. Implement a solution that utilizes Cisco's officially supported APIs and SDKs, coupled with a rigorous code review process for all custom scripts, and enforces least privilege access for the automation service account. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in implementing automated collaboration solutions, balancing the desire for efficiency and innovation with the imperative to maintain robust security and compliance. The risk matrix, a standard tool for evaluating potential threats and vulnerabilities, highlights a critical need to address the security implications of integrating new automation tools with existing Cisco collaboration infrastructure. The professional challenge lies in selecting an automation approach that not only meets functional requirements, but also adheres strictly to the security and data privacy regulations governing the deployment of such technologies. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough security assessment and the implementation of appropriate controls before full deployment. This aligns with best professional practice by ensuring that the automation solution is designed with security as a foundational element, rather than an afterthought. It demonstrates a commitment to protecting sensitive collaboration data and maintaining the integrity of the communication systems. This proactive stance is essential for regulatory compliance, as it minimizes the likelihood of data breaches or unauthorized access, which could lead to significant legal and financial repercussions. Adhering to established security frameworks and Cisco's recommended best practices for automation integration is paramount. An incorrect approach that bypasses or inadequately addresses the identified security risks in the risk matrix is professionally unacceptable. Such an approach would represent a failure to uphold due diligence and a disregard for regulatory obligations. For instance, proceeding with automation without validating the security posture of the chosen tools or without implementing necessary access controls and encryption would expose the organization to significant vulnerabilities. This could lead to violations of data privacy laws, such as those requiring the protection of personally identifiable information transmitted or stored within the collaboration environment. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of ethical responsibility towards safeguarding user data and maintaining system trustworthiness. Another incorrect approach might involve relying solely on vendor assurances without independent verification, which is a failure to exercise professional skepticism and a potential breach of compliance requirements that mandate independent risk assessments. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process when evaluating automation solutions. This process begins with a comprehensive understanding of the risk matrix findings and their implications. It involves identifying all relevant regulatory requirements and internal security policies. The next step is to evaluate potential automation approaches against these criteria, prioritizing solutions that offer a demonstrable security advantage and a clear path to compliance. This includes seeking expert consultation, conducting pilot programs with rigorous security testing, and ensuring that all implemented solutions are auditable and maintainable. The ultimate goal is to achieve a balance between technological advancement and responsible, secure, and compliant operation. Question 18. Risk assessment procedures indicate that the proposed automation of Cisco collaboration workflows, including call routing and user provisioning, may introduce new vulnerabilities if not properly secured and validated against current data privacy regulations. Which of the following approaches best addresses these identified risks? Option A. Prioritize the technical functionality of the automation and defer detailed security and compliance checks to a later phase of the project. Option B. Proceed with the automation implementation immediately to realize efficiency gains and address any security or compliance issues that arise post-deployment. Option C. Deploy the automation solution with basic security configurations and rely on existing network security measures to protect against potential vulnerabilities. Option D. Conduct a thorough security audit and compliance review of the proposed automation solution, developing and implementing specific mitigation strategies for identified risks before full deployment. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough security audit and compliance review of the proposed automation solution, developing and implementing specific mitigation strategies for identified risks before full deployment. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because the implementation of new automation tools, while offering efficiency gains, introduces potential security vulnerabilities and compliance risks. The core difficulty lies in balancing the desire for technological advancement with the imperative to maintain robust security postures and adhere to regulatory mandates. Careful judgment is required to ensure that automation does not inadvertently create new attack vectors or lead to noncompliance with data handling and privacy regulations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive risk assessment and mitigation strategy before full deployment. This aligns with the principles of secure by design and privacy by design, which are foundational to many regulatory frameworks. Specifically, it demonstrates a commitment to proactive security and compliance, ensuring that potential issues are identified and addressed early in the development lifecycle. This approach minimizes the likelihood of costly remediation, reputational damage, and regulatory penalties. It also fosters a culture of responsibility and due diligence within the organization. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the technical implementation without considering security implications would be a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It would violate the principle of due care, which mandates that professionals take reasonable steps to prevent harm. Such an approach could lead to breaches of data privacy regulations, such as those governing the handling of sensitive customer information, by exposing that data to unauthorized access. Furthermore, it would fail to meet the ethical obligation to protect the organization and its stakeholders from foreseeable risks. Another incorrect approach, which involves deploying automation without adequate testing or validation of its impact on existing security controls, also constitutes a regulatory and ethical failure. This demonstrates negligence and a disregard for the potential consequences of untested technology. It could lead to the circumvention of established security protocols, creating loopholes that malicious actors could exploit. This failure to ensure the integrity and security of automated processes directly contravenes regulatory requirements for maintaining secure systems and protecting sensitive data. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured decision-making framework. This framework begins with clearly defining the problem and its scope. Next, it involves identifying all relevant stakeholders and their concerns. A thorough analysis of potential risks and benefits, considering both technical and compliance aspects, is crucial. This should be followed by the generation of multiple potential solutions or approaches. Each approach must then be evaluated against established criteria, including security, compliance, efficiency, and cost-effectiveness. Finally, the chosen approach should be documented, implemented with appropriate oversight, and continuously monitored for effectiveness and any emergent risks. This iterative process ensures that decisions are well-informed, defensible, and aligned with professional and regulatory standards. Question 19. During the evaluation of a new Cisco collaboration solution automation project, which approach best ensures adherence to data privacy regulations within the United States, considering the potential for sensitive user data to be processed by the automated workflows? Option A. Prioritize rapid deployment of the automation to realize efficiency gains, with a plan to address any potential privacy concerns retrospectively if they arise. Option B. Rely on the vendor's standard compliance documentation for their collaboration platform without conducting an independent assessment of the specific automated workflows. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive data privacy impact assessment (DPIA) and integrate privacy by design principles into the automation architecture from the initial stages of development. Option D. Proceed with automation development based on general IT security best practices, assuming existing compliance measures for collaboration tools will suffice. Correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive data privacy impact assessment (DPIA) and integrate privacy by design principles into the automation architecture from the initial stages of development. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid deployment of new collaboration technologies and the imperative to adhere to data privacy regulations. The need to automate Cisco collaboration solutions, while beneficial for efficiency, must be balanced against the potential for unintended data exposure or noncompliance with privacy laws. Careful judgment is required to ensure that automation processes do not inadvertently collect, store, or transmit sensitive user data in a manner that violates established regulations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding and integration of regulatory requirements into the automation design from the outset. By conducting a comprehensive data privacy impact assessment (DPIA) and embedding privacy by design principles, the automation solution is built with compliance as a core feature, not an afterthought. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of future remediation efforts, legal penalties, and reputational damage, aligning with the ethical obligation to protect user data and the regulatory mandate to comply with data protection laws. An incorrect approach that fails to conduct a DPIA before automation design is professionally unacceptable. This oversight represents a significant regulatory failure, as it bypasses a critical step mandated by data protection frameworks to identify and mitigate privacy risks associated with new data processing activities. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for user privacy by not proactively assessing potential harms. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on general IT security best practices without specific consideration for collaboration data privacy is also professionally unacceptable. General security is important. It does not substitute for the specific requirements of data privacy regulations concerning personal data handled within collaboration platforms. This approach risks overlooking specific compliance obligations related to data subject rights, consent management, or data minimization within the context of collaboration. A third incorrect approach that assumes existing compliance measures are sufficient without re-evaluation for the new automated solution is professionally unacceptable. Automation introduces new data flows and processing activities that may fall outside the scope of previous compliance assessments. This assumption constitutes a regulatory failure by not ensuring ongoing compliance and an ethical failure by not verifying that user data remains protected under the new automated system. The professional reasoning framework for such situations involves a risk-based approach. First, identify all relevant regulatory frameworks governing data privacy in the relevant jurisdiction. Second, conduct a thorough impact assessment of the proposed automation on data privacy. Third, integrate privacy controls and compliance measures directly into the automation design, privacy by design. Fourth, implement robust testing and validation processes to confirm compliance. Finally, establish ongoing monitoring and review mechanisms to ensure continued adherence to regulations as the solution evolves. Question 20. The audit findings indicate that the automated provisioning of Cisco collaboration endpoints and user access to collaboration services may not fully align with the organization's established data handling and access control policies, potentially creating security vulnerabilities. Which of the following approaches best addresses these findings while ensuring ongoing compliance? Option A. Focus solely on improving the speed and efficiency of the automated provisioning process, deferring any security-related adjustments to a later, unspecified project phase. Option B. Conduct a thorough review of the automation framework, identifying specific points of noncompliance with data handling and access control policies, and implement targeted modifications to the automation scripts and configurations to enforce these policies. Option C. Implement a temporary workaround by manually adjusting user permissions for affected accounts until a more comprehensive solution can be developed. Option D. Assume that the default security configurations of the Cisco collaboration solutions are sufficient and that the existing network security measures will adequately protect the data. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough review of the automation framework, identifying specific points of noncompliance with data handling and access control policies, and implement targeted modifications to the automation scripts and configurations to enforce these policies. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT automation projects where the implementation of new technology, like Cisco collaboration solutions, must align with existing security policies and regulatory compliance. The audit findings highlight a potential gap between the automated workflows and the established security controls, specifically concerning data handling and access. The professional challenge lies in balancing the efficiency gains of automation with the imperative to maintain a secure and compliant environment, especially when dealing with sensitive collaboration data. The need for a robust, Auditable and secure automation framework is paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review and potential revision of the automation framework to explicitly incorporate and enforce existing security policies and regulatory requirements. This means ensuring that automated provisioning, data access, and communication channels adhere to defined security baselines, such as data encryption, access control lists, and audit logging. This approach represents best professional practice because it proactively addresses the audit findings by integrating security and compliance into the core of the automation design. It aligns with the principle of security by design and ensures that the automation solution not only enhances efficiency, but also strengthens the organization's security posture and regulatory adherence. For example, if the audit identified unencrypted data transfer in automated meeting recordings, the revised framework would mandate the use of encrypted transport protocols. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to dismiss the audit findings as a minor inconvenience, assuming that the existing security measures are sufficient. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it disregards explicit findings from an audit, which are intended to identify and rectify potential risks. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to uphold the organization's commitment to security and compliance. Another incorrect approach is to implement a quick fix that only addresses the immediate symptom without understanding the root cause or its broader implications. For instance, if the audit found unauthorized access to collaboration data, a quick fix might involve revoking access for a few users without re-evaluating the access control logic within the automation scripts. This is a regulatory and ethical failure, as it doesn't fundamentally resolve the vulnerability and could lead to recurring issues, potentially violating data privacy regulations. A third incorrect approach is to solely rely on the vendor's default security setting without customization or validation against organizational policies. While vendors provide security features, they are often generic. Organizations have specific regulatory obligations and internal policies that may require more stringent controls. Failing to tailor and validate these settings against specific requirements is a failure to meet due diligence and could result in non-compliance with relevant data protection laws. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such audit findings should adopt a structured approach. First, thoroughly understand the scope and implications of each audit finding. Second, engage with relevant stakeholders, including security teams, compliance officers, and business unit representatives, to gather context and requirements. Third, evaluate the existing automation framework against the identified gaps and organizational policies. Fourth, design and implement solutions that not only address the immediate findings, but also enhance the overall security and compliance posture of the automation. This involves a continuous cycle of review, testing, and refinement, ensuring that automation efforts remain aligned with evolving security threats and regulatory landscapes.